Look at that view. Look at that.
Oh, lovely.
Very nice up there. A lovely view. Just for Brent. All right. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora. Good morning, Aurora.
Good morning, Aurora.
Hello there. One Pfizer shot later, right? Was it the Pfizer?
Moderna.
Moderna. Okay, it was Moderna.
The Moderna shot.
Moderna.
So we're bringing you Jenettesplaining this week, but it's going to be a struggle.
Under the influence.
We're going to make it happen. It's going to be fine.
It's 8:01. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Aurora, you guys. It's a beautiful, sunshiny day out there, as you can see. You're listening to the second largest city's first daily news podcast, and it's Friday. Good morning to all of our friends. Jim Mendoza, Aisha Saxon, so many. Melissa Mendoza. Good morning to all y'all.
Good morning.
All right. Jenettesplaining, part 3?
I don't know what we're on now. 3, 4.
I think so.
This is the first one with the official name, though.
Right.
So maybe we start marking it from here.
Okay.
Maybe this is initial Jenettesplaining episode number 1.
All right. Jenettesplaining episode number 1.
We're kicking it off to a great start, too, because let me tell you, this was actually a really amazing week. Like, all of the news is good this week.
It is.
I think all of the news is good, but man, do I feel like crap. So
why do you feel like crap, Jeanette? What the?
So, those of you who have been following me on the gram know that I got my first shot, the gram, right? I call it that now.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be on it, but that's what I call it.
Gram.
I got my first shot, several weeks ago, right? And had the COVID arm reaction, like the bump, no big deal. Got the second shot yesterday. And the way that the Moderna vaccine works, and the Pfizer one, although the reactions tend to be worse on Moderna, is it creates an immune response in your system. So you feel like you're sick, even though you're not sick. Now, it's completely relative to actually getting the illness itself, it's nothing. But, man, like, you get the headache, like, I cannot move my arm above, like, my shoulder. You cannot do, you can't speak, apparently.
See that?
You stumble over your words. But the headache, body aches and, chill fever all night, just back and forth. So anyone who's got one Moderna shot in there, gear up for this. Although, and here's the science and background that people actually probably do want to know, which is that the reactions are likely to be stronger if you're younger. They're stronger if you are a woman, and they're stronger with the Moderna vaccine over any of the others, and they are stronger, they're really strong for a lot of people who have actually had COVID already. So the recommendation now is that if you are getting one of these 2-dose vaccines, if you had COVID once already, you're probably set by just getting 1 vaccine dose. You don't need 2 if you actually had COVID.
Right.
So just some things to keep in mind. That said, I'm so excited to have it because the CDC announced this week that you can hug people again.
Hey,
you can hug.
Yes.
So the recommendation is that once you are fully vaccinated, you can have physical contact, you can take off your mask and talk to people and smile and stuff when you're in close quarters. When you are in public, you should still be wearing your mask, and that's for a variety of reasons, including people who cannot get the vaccine, who might still be vulnerable, people who haven't gotten the vaccine because there's just not enough out there yet. So in public, masks on. At home or at someone else's home or whatever, you can shed all of that once you are fully vaccinated. So I feel like crap, and it's going to be so worth it in 2 weeks when I can just hug everybody.
That's good.
Resume my hobby, my pre-COVID hobby of licking random doorknobs. I'm really looking forward to.
And that's not a joke, y'all. That's not. No, that's not. That's not on-air banter. That's
moving on.
moving on.
So
All right.
1 year that we've lived with this whole thing.
It is topic of the day. The time, well, one of many. The day everything changed. It's been 1 year.
It's been 1 year. So March 11th was the day that everything got real crazy last year, right? Because that was the day like folks showed up at a basketball game in Oklahoma and they just like call, even though everyone was there, they're like, oh, never mind, we're not doing this. And,
Right.
And then the NBA shut down. And then Tom Hanks got sick, and I feel like it was Tom Hanks. Everyone was like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
oh no, a national treasure."
Because he was in Australia.
He was in
with
Australia
his wife. Yeah.
and he got it. Yes,
It
so
was like, no, not Castaway. No.
right, and then by the end of that week, right, that's when I think everybody around here, in Illinois, started like freaking out a little bit and getting,
Right.
getting ready to shut down. That's when we started having the emergency meetings at work. And then by that weekend, they were calling for, maybe go stock up on booze and just stay home for a while.
Right. Things started shutting down, but it was told to us that liquor stores would remain open. I remember that. The school district shut down everything. Yeah.
Everybody.
Like there was literally a special ordinance that said liquor stores.
Yes, liquor stores were specifically deemed essential services because if you want people to stay home and not do anything, it's that the liquor stores, the dispensaries stayed open, right? Like it would have been a much more honest PR campaign and probably more effective if like every level of government had just said like stay home and get plastered. Just you get 1 month. Just
Right.
stay home and get plastered. We'll
Right.
let you know when it's safe, right?
It's like it's like Marie Antoinette for 2020. You know,
Right.
it's like let them have edibles.
Exactly, right? And like we would have all just stayed home for a month. We would have like had some time to get on top of this thing. It wouldn't have gotten nearly as bad.
Right.
That's just I'm making that up. I don't have statistics to say that it wouldn't have gotten as bad, but I like to think that if the entire country had just stayed home and gotten high, then probably we would.
So from a great article in NBC5 Chicago, on March 11, 2020, the American public finally began to come to grips with the stark reality. The toll of the novel coronavirus would be unavoidable for months to come, perhaps longer. For nearly 2 months, health and government officials had been sounding the alarm about the virus as it infected and killed thousands of people around the world, pinballing from China to Italy and beyond before striking Seattle in the first deadly outbreak in the United States. Time is 8:08. I don't know why everybody got so quiet after I read that, but that's cool too. So moving on to, I'll post this article so you guys can read the rest. Dr. Anthony Fauci remains in our current administration. An hour later, I'm reading from the article. The World Health Organization announced the coronavirus outbreak, quote, can be characterized as a pandemic on that day.
Yes, yeah, and what's been really astounding throughout a lot of this too is just how on target a lot of the predictions have been, really early on from the scientists that were watching and trying to take guesses at how many millions of people would catch this thing, how many people would die from it. There's ranges, right, from lots of different experts, but so they've actually been relatively on target. We're at over 500,000 people in America dead from it now, and it's not far off from what a lot of the experts were saying.
Right.
The vaccine has clearly made my brain melt and forget my train of thoughts.
Seriously, because we're reading from a script, so I don't know why.
So, what has been, I think, where we go from here in this conversation is talking about the things, the things that have changed, that obviously we want to return back to, right? Because there's been this huge push among everybody, politicians in particular, but everybody to get back to normal, get back to normal, get back to normal. And I think the thing that I'm interested in us reflecting on as a society, but since I don't have that much power, maybe just in the listenership of this podcast, is the degree to the things that have changed that we don't want to go back to.
Right.
Right? I think there are things that have changed over this course of the pandemic that have been, I don't want to say net gains because we lost 500,000 people, right? But like things that have come out of it that we do want to shift and do differently in our lives.
Definitely. Speaking just for myself, like, maybe there's people who want to create a new norm, right? So, like, everybody's degree of returning to normalcy, I think at one point in time in the pandemic, to your point, which is really well made, I think at one point in time in the pandemic, people were like, wow, 4 months in, 5 months in, if only we could go back to normal. Concerts, yada, yada, I still got my job. But now it's like, okay, let's have a normalcy of what's happening now kind of thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think everybody still wants to go back to concerts, right? Like, I know I do, but I don't think everybody wants to go back to commuting every day.
Right.
Right. Like, which we've talked about before on this show. I think people, I think the face masks, I don't think everyone wants to go to wear them every day for the rest of their lives every time they're out in public, but I do think we'll start to see people wearing them when they're feeling a little under the weather and going out in public, right?
Putting them on their eyes when they go to sleep at night. Like, I can do it both.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Why not? But, like that, and actually that's a really common practice in parts of Asia, if you're not feeling well, but you got to take the subway to get to the doctor's office, you put on a mask, right? And so that's one of those things that's just in our collective consciousness now. So I don't, maybe this is one that we put to the audience. Like, what are the things that you want to get back to?
I like that.
And what are the things that you're like, nah, I was actually really good with?
Let us know in the chat. Tell us what you would like to get back to, and tell us what you're glad has gone away.
Yeah, or has changed. Something that changed for the positive. We don't always have to be dark.
Right. Right.
Like, I think one thing, there was that crazed panic of seed buying at the beginning of this. Does everybody remember that? Do we all remember how we just all went and bought seeds?
People remember the toilet paper wars.
The toilet paper, fine, but like there was also a run on seeds, like so because people were like, what if the food system collapses?
Right.
And we have to grow our own food, which, like, I mean, we all did this. I think collectively, everybody did some kind of crazy mental algebra that was like, okay, if society collapses this much, I'm gonna need seeds. But if society collapses this much, I'm gonna need guns to protect my garden and my backyard, right? Like,
we can do both, shotguns and cucumbers. We can have.
It just got crazy there for a little bit. But what is sticking around is this the gardening thing. People are doing that, which is all of the seed companies have said no, we're still having a hard time meeting. Fulfilling demand, right? So if more gardeners come out of this, that's kind of a nice thing. It doesn't make up for 500,000 people dead, but it's kind of a nice thing.
Aisha Saxon, happy Friday to you as well. Rafael y Francis Rodriguez. Okay, here we go. So Rafael mentions that I'd like to get back to seminars, expos, conventions, and craft shows.
Oh, yeah?
Well done. Yeah, you know what?
He's ready for the swag bag.
He is. He's ready. Karina Howard, good morning, peeps. Have a good one. You as well, Karina. You as well. And Jen Mendoza, feel better soon, Jeanette. We'll catch up soon when you feel up
Jen.
to it. Word up. Yep. So the time is now 8:14. You're listening to and watching Good Morning Aurora. Check it out outside. It's a nice, beautiful, sunshiny day. And it's really pretty out there. So, moving right along to the next news item. Well, so anniversary of COVID.
So I feel like we covered that. Do you want to hit stimulus too while we're at it?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so real fast. Just I'm sure everyone is paying attention to this news in the national conversation because whenever there's $1,400 for free floating around, everyone suddenly actually watches the news.
Right, bing, bing, bing. Yeah, right, turn on NBC,
money,
y'all.
They pass that. They pass that yet? So they did.
They don't go vote, but they tune in to see where the 14.
I mean,
I'll stop. Let's not nitpick.
Cash is cash.
Let's not nitpick. You're right. You're right. You're right.
I mean, yes, everyone should vote, but also $1,400. If they paid everyone $1,400 to vote, then people get to the polls.
Bing.
Right?
That's
so really, I mean, and I don't know that would make democracy any more expensive than it already is, given how much money goes into these campaigns. I think I just fixed democracy. Did
there
you
you
do that
go.
this morning?
Jeanette's
All right, so no more campaign donations. Everybody just gets paid to go vote. So,
Nice.
But the stimulus did pass. It's called the American Recovery Act, something. I'm sure it's got a longer title than that. And it
Because Aurora would sound whack.
Right, because so $1,400 per person. Here's the insane per person. So like previous stimulus checks have been, so $1,200 for an adult and $600 for kids, or 6 and 3 or something like that, right? This is $1,400 per person. So if you've got some small ones running around, you're like cashing in. It doesn't make up for the fact of just how expensive it is to raise a kid in America these days. But hey,
right,
like you get a fat stack. Also for families, and this is the thing. Oh, and on the stimulus, they're saying that some of those checks could come as early as this weekend, which is insane to me.
Y'all about to go crazy. Y'all get that stimulus. They about to go crazy.
Of the federal government moving that fast on anything.
Right.
So
y'all don't go crazy out there. Y'all don't go crazy.
So we'll see. But keep an eye on your bank accounts.
Right. If you need help on how to spend your stimulus,
you can just
email Good Morning Aurora.
Yes. Just find me.
Right.
Right.
Holla at us.
I've got ideas. And so, but the other amazing thing about this rescue package is that it also includes tax credits. It changes the way that tax credits are done for families with kids. And that's it's a pretty big deal. It's because it increases the amount that families can get. It also it makes the deduction or the credit an above the line credit is the tax term. And what it means is that like, even if you weren't going to get that much back, now you can get all of that back basically. Like if you didn't owe that much in tax, you're still getting all of that money. So, it's supposed to take half of the families currently, like half of the children living in poverty out of poverty. Now, it'll just move them slightly above that line, but
of course.
But it's going to be a huge thing for a lot of families. One implication for our listeners is that if you already did your taxes, you might just want to keep an eye to the ground or an ear to the ground and maybe talk to your tax guy and be like, should I maybe refile because everybody's tax situation is going to be a little different, and there may be some cases where filing an amended return might get you some more money. So like talk to your tax guy or gal.
Another comment from Brent Jimenez. I would like to get local events back the most. Street festivals, art bars, stuff like that. But I'm glad that it will be more normal to wear a mask in public when feeling sick. Tracy Duran, good morning, everyone. Good morning to you as well, Tracy. And Leticia Millen checking in. Good morning to you as well. The time is 8:18 a.m. You're listening to Good Morning Aurora, the second largest city's first daily news podcast. And this is Jenettesplaining, episode 1.
Episode 1, officially.
So you're listening to Jenettesplaining, episode 1. Moderna shot. Let's get to the next part.
Wherein I explain how terrible I feel.
Yes. So a couple of quick local news items, and then we're going to move on to our next topic. All right. East Aurora School District is hiring. Told you guys about that. The classic professions. The people that we need. Lunch ladies and crossing guards.
Yay.
Noon hour meal supervisors and traffic monitors. If you or someone you know is looking for a job, we hit you with the link and it's on our Facebook page, so please go apply. And the 5-day meal packs that are distributed or available on Thursdays have returned. They are an additional offering at the same time and location as regular on-site daily meal pickup. Shout out to East Aurora School District 131 for all that good news. And Virtual Rock and Rumble starts Monday. A fun music and movement program for all ages brought to us by the Aurora Public Library. You have to register for that, so please do so. Shouts out to the library. And have you heard about PEBT? PEBT.
PEBT. You gotta love the federal government and education as a sector, both for their amazing use of acronyms that make no sense.
Right.
It's such a thing. So basically what we're talking about, the Pandemic Electronic Benefit Transfer. Guys, it's a link card. It's food stamps, right? You get free money. So the way that the federal free and reduced lunch program works, right? Aside from shaming kids by like giving you the lunch card that's a different color, why did they do that? Did that happen to you as a kid, man?
You know, the school I went to, we didn't have.
Let me tell you, backing up, and I'm about to like dig up some feelings for some kids.
We're gonna have to have a camera in here, y'all, because she going through a moment.
Because like at West Aurora schools, and I don't know if this is the case everywhere, but it's the case at West Aurora schools when I was growing up back in the 80s and 90s. Like you would get a card, like your lunch card, right? And they would punch it or whatever every day. And if you paid full price for your lunch, it was like yellow. But if you got free or reduced lunch because you were the poor kid, it was green. And so like it was me and Pedro were the only kids with like the other color, and you're like kind of like hiding it or whatever because you don't like
y'all sliding into the lunch lane like charge that.
You know, like.
Oh, yo, she got the green card. They ain't got nobody.
I might have those colors switched. All I remember was it was very traumatic to have to. But anyway, so a part of that's been done away with, I think, because at this point there are so many students in when your school district hits a certain percentage of kids who qualify for free and reduced lunch, A, you start getting breakfast at the school for free too, and B, everybody gets it. So as opposed to like some kids paying full price and some kids paying the reduced or the free price, everybody just gets free lunch. So
I think that's the American way.
Is
it not? I mean, I love living in a world where kids get lunch
to eat.
Free.
What a nice idea, kids eating and also not getting shame over the color of their lunchroom cards, right?
I mean, what do you guys think? Kids should have free
lunch,
breakfast and lunch, right?
Right.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think, or
it's not 1,000%. It's not like completely free. You're still paying taxes, right? Like,
facts.
Be fair, you're still paying taxes.
True.
Everyone's still. It's one of those like, if we all agree that education is a good thing, we should probably all agree that feeding the kids is a good thing.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So, anywho, so yeah, if you are a parent in the West Aurora School District, you are eligible to get basically a link card, like food stamp card, any parent of kids in that district. And it's loaded with about $6 a day or something like that. So you can use it to go buy groceries right now. So since the kids aren't in school all the time, so immigration status not a factor. Like doesn't matter if you've got kids. Where do we get? There's a link posted. You should have gotten a letter too.
Yeah, we posted the link for you. It's on our Facebook, you guys. The letter is there with the link as well. District 129 participates in the CEP, Community Eligibility Provision of the National School Lunch Program. Time is 8:23 a.m. and you are listening to Jenettesplaining, Part 1. Okay, so next we're going to talk about...
Talking about schools?
We're talking about schools. And all you parents out there, you need to tune in. You need to listen. You need to listen very, very carefully to what we're about to tell you.
I mean, mostly I'm just going to tell you the same thing last time we talked about schools is just be nice, people.
Word up.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal. The national
revolutionary idea.
Right? Yeah. Just be nice.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's awful for everybody and you don't make it any better by complaining. The guidelines have changed again for what is safe in schools. So originally, schools were required to keep 6 feet between students, but if you're already in overcrowded classrooms, like how are you going to maintain that amount of space per kid to keep them from sneezing on each other, right? Or like rubbing those grubby little kid hands on things.
Snickers bars, your face equals fun.
What?
Snickers bar plus your face equals fun, like smearing.
Sure. Yeah. Is that a thing? I don't have kids. I don't know what the kids are doing these days, aside from the Roblox. I know they do that.
That's the jam.
That's the thing. So you know, schools are having to do all these crazy things like mark out like blocks or like, you know, spaces in like the classrooms, you know, so that your kid has to sit in the one spot and not next to other kids and keep them in pods. And then they were having all these challenges with rotating them in and out of their classrooms, and so then they had the teachers rotating in and out of the classrooms. And then like they also, you know, it creates a big problem with like lunches, right, too, because usually for lunch or for breakfast you've got all the kids going into the cafeteria sort of at one time or in shifts, and then, you know, again touching each other.
Right.
So they changed and then on top of that, they have the AB schedules, or the Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday schedules, and all of this. So the guidelines have changed again, and so now we're down to 3 to 6 feet, something like that. So
yeah, 3 feet now. 3 feet, yep.
So your kids can get slightly closer and probably, you know, still just break the rules anyway and rub their grubby hands on things.
Right.
So, and on top of that, teachers are getting vaccinated very quickly at this point. So most, in a lot of areas, they've done mass vax sites, specific, at least in Illinois, right? Because teachers were eligible quite early in Illinois to get teachers vaccinated quickly.
Yeah, shout out to all of our teachers and educators out there.
Because their jobs have just been exceptionally hard.
Right.
And so now the challenge is there's a lot of parents out there who are desperate to get their kids back in school. And again, you have to have grace for that, because these are parents who, you know, we tend to rely on public schooling as childcare,
right.
Which is not ideal for society functioning and getting parents the opportunity to work, right? But that's kind of where we're at right now. And so, you know, it's really difficult for these families to try and think of, well, is, you know, I was going to say is little Timmy, but nobody calls their kids Timmy anymore. Little Hayden, Caden, Jaden, right?
Right.
Like, is Jaden going to school this Monday or next Monday?
Perfect.
Or how do I, like, you know, how do you build your work schedule around something that's so erratic, right? And it's half days and it's these days. It was already difficult for working parents, you know, 2 working parents, to try and figure out the child care thing. And then on top of that, how you're going to get child care when, like, you don't trust anyone to not be, you know, to be around your kids and not be sick and all of this stuff, right? And then on top of that, you still have parents that still, for one reason or another, cannot send their kids to school at all.
Right.
Because somebody in the home is medically fragile, something like that. So Jaden goes to school and he brings something home and he doesn't get sick and his teacher doesn't get sick, but he passes it on to somebody who gets really ill at the home.
To the listeners, Jaden is fictional.
He's fictional.
But man, you're explaining it really good.
Jaden.
Raphael, free lunch for kids always. We concur. Good morning to Norma Peterson. Leticia says yes for sure. And Tracy Duran, all kids should have free breakfast and lunch. It's horrible that some kids get shamed when they don't have enough money on their lunch cards. There should be no reason that the kids shouldn't get a free meal. I totally concur.
Yeah,
and good morning to you, Karina.
You sometimes hear those, like, they're supposed to be the heartwarming stories of somebody coming in and paying off the kid's debt on their, like, milk money or whatever, right? And you're kind of like, why are we making our children debtors, like, you know, in the 3rd grade to begin with?
I hate that.
Nobody should have debt in the 3rd grade, even if it's for milk.
It's like the person who gives the kid $10 goes viral. But the whole point of why a kid is in debt at lunch.
They just need chocolate milk.
Yeah. Seriously, all this over a little mini box of Frosted Flakes. It's crazy.
Right? So, anyway, so you've got these parents who are trying to get their kids back into school. You've got the parents who are still not ready to go yet. This creates all kinds of chaos. And even in the most normal, best of years, if you want to see chaos erupt in a public sphere, go to a school board meeting when they are trying to adjust the bus schedules, right? When they're like, you know what I mean? So, or like the school, the bell times or whatever, because they orchestrate these things to create some kind of consistency for parents and to make sure that teachers can move between schools when they need to, and all of this stuff is really, it gets stupidly complex even in a normal year. So all the, for the people who are like, I just need to get my kid back in school. Yeah, you do. Of course you do.
Right.
But administrators can't just like throw open the doors and say like, all right, everybody back in, because that's still
Of course.
not safe for the community.
Time is 8:30 a.m. It is Friday. You're listening to Jenettesplaining. This is volume 1. So what we're talking about, I'm gonna read a little bit of this article, and of course we will post it for you guys to read at your leisure. The news that came out of the Illinois State Board of Education on Tuesday was big. In the world of education, at least here in our area, it was almost the equivalent of a stop the presses. That's because the ISBE, another acronym for you, ISBE, had just posted on its website a revision to its COVID-19 safety guidelines that, among other things, declared schools no longer had to be tied to the long-standing 6-foot social distancing guidelines. These new guidelines put the minimum distance between students at 3 feet, as long as teachers are fully vaccinated, created a lot of buzz, not just with school administrators and board members, but also with anxious parents.
Yeah. So what's going to happen now is the school boards, the administrators, they're all going to sit down and they're all probably pulling extra hours right now trying to figure out, okay, how do we adjust this to get more kids in? Can we adjust this to get more kids in? Does it make sense to just finish out the semester the way we've been doing?
Right.
So have patience. Right. Yes, it sucks.
Is patience a virtue?
Well, it's not one that I possess personally, so I guess I can't really speak to it.
Your honesty is so...
I like it when other people have patience. With me.
Right. So a couple of local news topics before we get into the next part of the news. I want to say good morning to all you guys out there. Shouts out. Let's get some Kane County shouts out. Geneva, what up? Wake it up. Elgin, stand up. How you doing out there? South Elgin, too. We didn't forget about you.
Sure, why not? We
had a check-in from Skokie the other day on Tuesday, so shouts out to Skokie. Yes. Shouts out.
Such is the reach, the broad reach of the podcast world.
That's right. So shout out to Skokie. Shout out to St. Charles, Batavia as well. Yeah. Got to give the shouts out to the whole Kane County. Is Elburn in Kane County?
Elburn is in Kane County.
Okay, shouts out to Elburn, Illinois as well. We had a couple of check-ins from there. Boom, boom.
Kane County's super weird because it's like, you've got the Fox Valley, right, which is on the eastern edge. And
right.
You've got major cities like Elgin and Aurora, right, and all the nice little places in between. And then you get just you just go right past 47 and you're like, this is just farm field. There's just it's like a totally different
Frog in the corner and he go riding. Crambone.
I don't know that reference, but yes. Oh no, he's giving me a look. No?
You don't know that reference?
No, I don't know that reference.
The person who can tell me where that reference is from gets a t-shirt. There it is right there.
Oh,
Frog in the corner and he go riding. Crambone.
Yeah.
If you tell me where that's from, you get a t-shirt. Just like that. And I'll tell you what, you can come here to the studio and pick it up. I will give it to you myself.
There you go.
All right.
Excellent.
So here's some Easter stuff going on. Coming up.
Yay.
Easter breakfast and indoor egg hunt will be held at 9 a.m. to noon, Saturday the 20th at Whitetail Ridge Golf Course, 7671 Clubhouse Drive in Yorkville. In addition to a buffet, breakfast, games, bunny photos, and donut wall, and an egg hunt by age groups are planned. Shouts out. Aurora.
Oh, yeah, this is held by the Bike Bald Group. So Bike Bald is an excellent organization. They're based out of Oswego. They provide all kinds of they fulfill wishes, and they provide activities like yoga and art and stuff like that for kids facing cancer.
Really?
So, yes.
Shouts out to Bike Bald.
Shouts out to Bike Bald.
Aurora Advent Christian Church at 905 North Edgelawn will hold an annual Easter egg scramble for kids through fifth grade at 11 a.m. Saturday the 27th on the church's north lawn. The Aurora Noon Lions Club will hold its annual Easter Bunny Pancake Breakfast from 7:30 to 11 Saturday, April 3rd at Luigi's Pizza. Proceeds benefit Marie Wilkinson's Food Pantry and Aurora Area Interfaith Food Pantry. Now, if you have been paying attention, you will have noticed that they just had a double team up, Luigi's and Aurora Noon Lions, did a spaghetti dinner fundraiser, and it went very well. Shouts out.
Also for the pantry?
Yes, for both pantries, yep.
Very good.
Tickets are $6 for adults and $4 for kids.
Okay. Can we talk about how creepy Easter bunnies are, though?
Yeah, of course.
Like, just as, like, it's got to be the creepiest costume of the whole calendar.
Melissa Mendoza, good morning to you.
Right. Like, right? Like, and Because, Santa's a little weird. It's like a guy, you sit on his lap, and you're like, I don't know how I feel about this because I don't really know you, right? But, like, the Easter Bunny, they always have, like, the scariest faces. And the vintage costumes are by far worse. Like, 1960s, like, Easter Bunny costume. There is not a photo that exists, I don't think, of a kid actually smiling with the Easter Bunny from the era that our parents grew up in. They're always like crying in terror.
Yeah, because Easter bunnies back then in that era, the get up of the Easter bunny like included like a vest or some shit.
Yeah,
he might have a tie or something, a
but
bow
like
tie.
the face was particularly terrifying, and it was almost like this practice that we did of like trying to terrorize small children, which like they need to build fortitude anyway. So I'm okay with that.
If you're scared of the Easter bunny, let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
I don't know how we can help you. We can't, but we just want to know who in our population is scared of the Easter bunny.
Yeah, like I just kind of want to move maybe past the like terrifying person in an Easter bunny costume.
See, here's the thing about the Easter bunny. I've always felt like he shouldn't be a person in a costume. Like you take Santa Claus, right? The like what is it? Central European legend of Christopher Kringle.
Chris Kringle, sure, yeah.
So we know we're dealing with a human.
Right.
The Easter bunny, they should have never made it in there should never put a
like
guy
an
in a suit.
Anthropomorphic.
Yeah, just leave it to
bunny
drawings,
man.
leave it to a nice bunny. Like they got Punxsutawney Phil, the groundhog, right? Why can't the mayor hold up a big ass bunny?
Right. Who
That'd be
doesn't
cool,
like bunnies?
right? But a guy in a suit,
Yeah.
I don't like. So I'm
It's
kind of with you.
It's a little weird.
It is a little
right?
weird.
No, I'm a little nervous about like with the people. Everyone gets the bunnies right because they're so cute for Easter, and give your kid a bunny or whatever, and then be like you end up with a really sad like pet bunny, right? Because it's hard to take care of bunnies and they're awful and they smell. But like
They smell really bad.
they do.
Like that cuteness is like
Although
deceptive.
Although, going back to our conversation last week, if Alderman Emmanuel Lamas, who has never owned a pet before,
Yeah, that's right.
if bunnies are his jam, like I will get that man a bunny.
We'll hook
like
you up.
he's thinking.
He's alderman of the first ward.
That sounds right.
First ward. If anybody lives in the first ward,
You should know that your alderman has never had a pet before and is in desperate need of knowing the love of a cute, cuddly pet.
these are the things they should ask people when they do run for office, right? It's like, what was your first pet?
Yeah, they always
Like,
ask.
I want to vote for the guy who's like
They
good
always
with a
ask
ferret.
things like, "What do you want to do for Aurora?"
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
the people they need to know.
Yeah, sir. How much is the price of dog shots? Like, how blue collar are you, right? Like,
Right? It's like when they prep like members of Congress who are running for office on like like every morning you find out what like the price of milk is in
Right.
wherever it is that you're campaigning, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you don't make an arugula gaffe.
Right.
Like Obama that one time.
Yep. Okay.
More Easter stuff.
Couple more.
All right.
The Village of Montgomery and Community Christian Church will hold a spring egg hunt for kids ages 1 through 10, Sunday, April 4th from 1 to 3 p.m. That's at Montgomery Park, 301 North River Street. And then lastly, New England Congregational Church's annual egg hunt for children ages 1 through 10 will be Saturday, April 10th from 10 a.m. to 12:15 p.m. Advanced registration is required, and masks will be required for persons age 2 and up. So that's everybody.
Yeah.
New England church members will receive priority registration. Space is available on March 6th. March 16th. The event will be opened to the community. All right, shouts out and stay tuned.
So basically, if you want eggs in this town, you have many options. Many options.
You
to
do,
egg hunt.
yep.
Yes. Very good.
All right.
Okay.
Next thing's next. Kane County is opening a COVID-19 mass vaccination site in Batavia. We got any listeners from Batavia checking in at the moment? Where y'all at?
Free check in.
Feel
Say
free.
hi.
Let us know where you
But more
tuning in from.
More importantly, it's not going to matter if you live in Batavia. You just have to be a King County resident.
Right.
Most of the time, I'm not sure about the King County one specifically, but most of the time it's if you live or work in the county, you become eligible. So this is great news, and this is all of my optimism for the week, even though I personally feel miserable. I'm really excited for everybody else to get these vaccines and feel as miserable as I do for a day, and then for us to all feel better, and then for all of us to be able to hug again. It'll be
Right.
great. Do you? I think, Curtis, you're going to give us a little rundown of the story, but basically,
I am. I was sympathizing with you a little bit. So here's
yeah.
the. I mean, it's Jenettesplaining. Yeah. I was letting you explain, girl. I was letting you explain. I was, yeah. So Kane County will soon open this site in Batavia. Kane County Board Chairwoman Corrine Pirog said she expects a tsunami of vaccines to arrive in the coming weeks. So they approved a rental agreement for the site at 501 North Randall, a vacant retail space that formerly held a Sam's Club. And depending on the amount of vaccine available, the site will operate 6 days a week and is expected to be fully operational by April. Kane County board members toured the site Tuesday with the Illinois National Guard.
Yes, so setting up one of these mass vax sites is actually, it's quite the undertaking, because you need to have the space, you have to have it all figured out, you also have to bring in, you've got a lot of times, if you're not using a school, right, or something like that, if you're using like a former retail space, the lights have been out for a long time, the water's been out for a long time, you got to get all of that stuff like all brought, functional again. Right. And so I know Kane County was looking at 2 different sites for having mass vax. They were looking at Batavia, they were looking at Carpentersville. And these retail sites, they what happens is we rent them, and so that we can open up in the spaces, make sure there's insurance, covering the space, and all of those things that you need to have in order to be able to run any kind of major public facility. But the initial cost. Do you want to quote that? I want to say like $500,000, something like that.
So the decision on Tuesday came after some board members raised concerns about the cost to rent 2 locations. 6 months rent for both proposed sites would total an amount up to $520,000, causing several board members to ask if the landlords would consider dropping the price because the space would be used to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. In a time of pandemic, quote, and what we are all going through, as many families are suffering and businesses, I'm just surprised and thought that there was a really high amount of rent that they are asking for. That's by Barb, watch me mess her name up on air, Wojnicki.
A good strong Polish name.
Right.
So they were originally looking at these 2 sites, one in Batavia and one in Carpentersville, and they were going into strip malls, right? These big vacant spaces. Now, this is a thing that I've heard, regardless of where I've worked in cities or as a reporter or anything like that. Everybody thinks that they know how to, like, what they would do if they were in charge, right? Like, why is that space sitting vacant? Someone should put something in that space.
Yeah.
Yes, someone should put something in that space. And yes, property owners should reduce the rents on these retail spaces for the greater good, because if you cannot, shop, right, you can't support these spaces, and if everyone is still sick, nobody's out shopping. But there is a much bigger story to be had here in talking about retail spaces, commercial spaces, and how they operate, and how cities are having to adapt to the fact that basically a lot of them are not operating very well anymore.
Right.
So prior to the pandemic, even before the pandemic started, we were in the midst of this thing called the retail apocalypse.
Yes.
Yes, so you've heard the retail
ominous
apocalypse.
Name. Yes.
Yes, it is a very ominous name. And, basically it was like we had all this expansion, particularly in areas like this, where the growth of just the early 2000s was explosive.
Right.
And with all that residential growth, you saw this growth of these commercial, like, strip malls and things like that, right? So your Randall Roads, your Route 34s down in Oswego, and your Route 59s, all of these strip mall commercial centers were just popping up like crazy. And that made sense back then, but then this little company came along that was just like, well, what if we just shipped everything right to people's doors the same day, called Amazon. And it sort of created mass havoc, right? And so prior to anybody getting sick with coronavirus, already foot traffic was dropping off at these places. They were having a really hard time keeping these businesses open, and they were just closing one after another. Like Pier 1 would close, and then like the Justice would close, and like all of these like big boxes. Big box stores have always cycled in popularity, right? But you were seeing a lot of those close too, electronics chains, like all of these things. No one was buying those things in stores anymore because you could just have Amazon deliver it, and if it was closed, try it on, and if you don't like it, send it back, and whatever. This is chaos for cities, right? Because they make a lot of money off of the retail taxes in those strips, and so they really want to keep those strips open. And so they were struggling prior. And what you were starting to see was those big box stores. Okay, well, if we can't sell things in there, maybe we can sell experiences, right? Because they say us hip young millennial folk, we like the experiences rather than the things. And so then you started seeing things like trampoline parks and like laser tag and axe throwing and stuff like that, all filling these spaces, right? That was the hip thing for a little while. And of course, so we shifted to these activities that brought people together in enclosed spaces, and then the pandemic hit. So, so cities have really been struggling to figure out, well, how do we keep these shopping centers alive, because they do provide so much revenue for our communities. And then it gets even more complex than that, because when you're talking about these two spaces in particular for this mass vax, you would think, well, you know, these companies, these strip mall owners should want to have all these people coming in and using their spaces, because it'll drive foot traffic to the other property, you know, the other stores on the property and all of these things. That seems logical, right? And yet you're seeing them not drop the prices on rent. So why would that be? Well, so a lot of that has to do with the way these strip malls get built in the first place. So if I am a developer and I'm like, I'm going to build a strip mall, and we'll see if we can get Target in here, and we'll see if we can get, you know, like a shoe store in here and all of that. I want to build something that is going to get those like really good like stores in there. Like I want a Target and I want a DSW. I don't want
Shoe Warehouse.
I don't want a Kmart and like the Shoe Carnival, right? Like the high, you know, or like Kmart and a Payless or whatever. Like,
why don't you like Payless? What's wrong with Payless?
It's nothing wrong with Payless, but like retail, like nobody is hating on anybody shopping at Payless. Although I don't
sounded like a small amount of.
I don't think they exist anymore. I think they were one that actually went out too, or if they do, they're like on life support at this point.
Right now they're like the Applebee's of the shoe.
Oh, poor Applebee's. But they don't generate as much sales tax revenue, right? Because Kmart and Payless sell at a lower price point. So, so I build these things, and I bring in investors to build these things, right? Like I probably am not using all my own money. And so when you build this strip mall, you say, it's going to be this prime real estate. I'm going to bring in these really nice retailers. And the way that the contracts are written to get these things funded is that the investors usually prohibit these developers from bringing in cheaper, from like lowering the rents. Because you lower the rents, and then suddenly you've got cheaper things coming in, and they're not generating as much revenue, and your property values drop. So, what you are seeing, and I think that that's maybe one of the things that you're seeing here, is that there are contractual clauses in there saying like we can't drop our rents. We'll get in charge. It has to sit. Either it has to sell for this much, or it has to rent for this much, or it has to sit vacant. There's lots of other things that go into this too. One is that all of these properties, a lot of them are like, you never know quite who owns the thing in the first place, because if you try to find, like, if you've got a strip of land next to a strip mall, it might say, you know, on the tax rolls, it belongs to 123 Enterprises, which is a shell company for another shell company for another shell company, and you just like can't even figure
Sometimes
out.
there's not even a sign.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's depending on how much they're trying to market it for, if they think it's the right time to sell it, like that kind of stuff.
123 Enterprises and shady.
Right, yeah.
Creating things.
Right. And then on top of that, these investors, you know, they're usually huge companies with mega portfolios and of property and lots of other things. And so that's why you'll see a lot of stores sit vacant for a really long time, because the property owner might be trying to bring in new businesses, but those businesses might compete with something else that's in the portfolio of the investor. So a good example of this is, let's say I own a strip mall and I had a Sports Authority in there, and remember those, right? The Sports Authority closed. And so now I want to bring in, you know, it's purpose built. This space is great for a sporting goods store. So I'm going to bring in like a Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever, right? But if the investors of this property are like, well, yeah, but we're invested in this other sporting goods company, like in Bass Pro Shops or something like that. You can't bring in our competitor because we've got a Bass Pro Shops not that far away.
Yeah.
So then that's when you start to see these spaces sit vacant for a really long time.
Got it.
All of the inner machinations of the world. You know, a lot of times people think it's like, oh, someone's just not working hard enough to market these spaces, or, oh, you know, the city is just letting it go to pot. And sometimes, yeah, like, I mean, we have some areas that are really struggling in this city, but a lot of times it's there's lots of pieces at play that you're not seeing behind the scenes.
So the time is 8:51 a.m.
Did I talk too long?
You know what? No, you did not. We've got a lot going on today. Today is Friday. We've got a great interview coming up here shortly at 9:15 a.m.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. This is going to be...
Who are we interviewing?
You know, should I debut it for the people? Should I let them know?
I mean, give them a little tease. You don't have to tell them who it is, but give them a little tease.
I'll tell you,
who's gonna want to listen to this?
If you're a parent and you're interested in the activities of the youth,
oh, okay,
you will love this interview that we are conducting today. Great organization. This was Jenettesplaining. This was fun.
I'm really glad.
This is the first official episode.
This is the first official episode with the name.
Right.
Yes.
So we hope that you guys have a great, wonderful, positive weekend. Anything we need to let them know before they... Oh,
yes, but the weekend is 1 hour shorter.
That's right. That's right.
So 2 a.m. Sunday morning we're springing forward. Make sure to change your clocks. Make sure to check your batteries in your smoke alarm, right? You're supposed to do that at the same time.
Right.
That's a thing. That's a thing that responsible adult type people do. They check the batteries in their smoke alarms.
That is right. Other than that, have a wonderful day. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes and Apple Podcasts.
Anywhere you get your podcasts.
Hit the
subscribe button.
And spotsonfox.com. Promo code GMA will get you 40% off.
40% off on a membership to find all of the hot spots.
Now, we just talked to you about empty businesses and everything like that, and how there were once retail stores and then shopping moved online, and we want you to shop online. Funny how that happened. But this is Jenettesplaining, Volume 1, and we will be back here next Friday, 8 a.m. live.
Very good.
Last words?
Is that it? Okay. Yeah. Have a good weekend, Aurora.
Peace.